Welcome to the Pinelander Podcast, the official podcast of Pineland, broadcasting to you from an undisclosed location deep inside Pineland, where we discuss faith, family, finances, firearms, freedom, food, and everything else in between, with those who believe in living free and living out the values that made this country free.
All right, welcome to the Pinelander Podcast. My name is Paul LaFavor. I'm here with my ranger buddy, Mike Blackburn. Today is Friday, the 17th of February, 2023. And, 2023 is just smoking right along. Where's the time go?
Yeah, they're all just running too fast now. That's all right.
Yeah, and I'm excited again to go back to the topic we were at a little while ago on a new book we have, The 5 Warrior Virtues, and subtitled A Practical Philosophy for the American Fighting Man.
Yeah, this is laying our groundwork, right, for the American Agoge Project.
Exactly. Hopefully, and I think hopefully, I'm thinking absolutely. I think this book is also timely. We've been wanting to write this book for quite some time. I know I have. Just looking at the degradation of American morality. I don't know how long I've been saying our national compass is broken. Our moral compass just is broke.
Yeah, I don't think this is coming as a shock to our audience.
Yeah, no doubt. So not wanting to badmouth America, but I love America, and I believe the guys are listening, the guys and gals, you love it too. Yeah. And so in keeping with that, we introduced the 5 Warrior Virtues. We also talked about, where we got these virtues, we have 5.
We talked a little bit about Vegetius. You brought him up.
Yep, the Roman author Vegetius, and how parallel.
We think that's going on right now. We think the things that he was worried about back then are things that we're worried about right now.
Absolutely. And, that was, he opined that this was 4th century A.D., watching Rome just kind of, swirl the toilet bowl and say, hey, the warrior class is what was holding the culture together. And because the warrior class was dying, it had disastrous ramifications. And we look at our own time and age and we say, wow, look at what's going on. So we introduced that. We introduced the 5 warrior virtues of honor, integrity, loyalty, temperance, and courage. And then we talked about honor. And I think the time before we talked about integrity. And then today we want to talk about loyalty. Yes. What that is, what it means, how important it is. And so, in the book, we start off with definitions. Definitions I think are really important. That was whether or not Socrates existed or not, or maybe just in the mind of Plato, it can be debated. But he said that wisdom begins with a definition of terms. And, this gives us commonality in what we're talking about. But loyalty, if we look at a definition, really we went back to ancient Greek, Koine Greek, and the word is elios. And on that word level, it just means fidelity. It means faithfulness. And the first thing that came to my mind when I was writing this, and it's funny, I don't know if I tell a lot of people this, but when I first felt the desire to join the military, I was looking at the Marine Corps. I like the Marines. My dad had served with the Marines as a Navy chaplain, so I grew up in Camp Lejeune. So I've always had a heart for the Marines. Love the Marines, and their their policy was you can't join at 17. You had to be 18. But the Army, it would take you at 17, and so that was the life for me. The other part of the story is, my dad took me on a dependence cruise when I was 16, and the constant rocking of the ship dissuaded me from being a sailor. because I would never find my sea legs. Yeah. And so anyway, I wanted to just say that, have a shout out to the Marines. We often call America's 911, but their motto is Semper Fidelis, Semper Fi, and it means always faithful. And that's the idea with loyalty. It's a faithfulness to the guy on the left and right of you, faithfulness to the United States, to the Constitution, to your family, to the Brotherhood of Arms, to all those things. And that's why, it's been a virtue. Virtue is a praiseworthy excellence from every nation and every culture, every age. Warriors have codified, ballads and codes, and they think loyalty is important, and they're absolutely right. What would we have? What would a marriage be without loyalty? What would a friendship be without loyalty? What would our nation be without loyalty? So loyalty is foundational.
Yeah, well, you brought up one character in the book, of course, and pretty much every American is familiar with Benedict Arnold. But yeah, I mean, what a failure in loyalty.
Yeah,
and I think a lot of it had to do with pride.
Absolutely.
So you have to guard that. I mean, he had every reason to be proud of himself and his abilities. He certainly was an able commander. I mean, a lot of people, and you make the argument as well, that we may not have won the Revolutionary War without him.
No doubt.
I mean, his victory at Saratoga was timely. I mean, we had to have that. But I think he thought he was due something and entitled to something that just wasn't there.
Absolutely.
And I think that's what happened there. What do you say there, Paul?
Yeah, it's a sad. You look at Benedict Arnold, and it's insane. I always scratch my head when some people don't know. They've never heard of him. Oh, and there was a time when I was young, I'm like, of course you heard of that. Yeah. And so his name is synonymous with traitor. Right. And the tragic story of Benedict Arnold was the guy was awesome. He was a great soldier. He was a great commander. The guy was a genius. And, he was improv. He could just develop tactics.
Well, he's supposed to be one of these characters, too, that you just sort of naturally follow. I mean, he was like a natural born leader. I mean, people just had, of course, I wasn't alive then, but, from all accounts, I mean, this guy was just one of those guys that it's like you'd follow to hell and back because you figured you were in good hands.
No doubt. Yeah, and that's the sad thing is, his pride was his destruction. Pride comes before destruction. And it was, he felt like his sacrifices were not appreciated, and he felt slighted, and, he felt like he should have been promoted ahead of his peers. And that just kind of led him to do some, despicable actions. He consorted with the enemy. He met with Major Andre, who was a spy master during the Revolutionary War, the British spy master. And, he tried to give over West Point to the British, which was, formed before it was the Army's premier academy. It was a fort on the west bank of the Hudson. And so that was, that sealed his doom. And he had opportunity. The sad thing about it too is he was wounded at Saratoga in the leg, and this gave him a limp, and this was a big deal for him. It was kind of debilitating in a lot of ways, but as is often brought out by a lot of historians, if he would have just died there, he would have been a national hero. He would have been enshrined. Now, I'm not saying that would have been, in some ways that would have been better for all of us, I think. At least his name.
Well, he would have been. I'm not gonna say that he would have been at a George Washington level, but I'm gonna tell you right now, he would have been a close second.
Absolutely.
Because he was just that effective of a leader. What would have happened? I mean, I always wonder. I mean, since we're on this guy, What would happen had we not intercepted those messages between
Oh, wow.
him and Andre?
Well, I mean, I'm not like,
I mean, if they
super
if they
savvy.
if they
on
would
that,
have
but
been able
yeah,
to take West Point,
I think that would have been a game. It could have been a game changer because, like I said, I'm not super read onto this, but I know the British had taken New York, and it was basically bottled up. It's a huge natural harbor, and after George Washington and his army was beaten out of that, they took up residence on the west bank of the Hudson, and they for a long time, they kept the British Army at bay, and just being there and having that fort there, that series of forts, kept the British Army from crossing the Hudson in force, and that could have been a big deal. Arguably, the war could have taken a different turn if that would have happened.
yeah, it makes you wonder if God had His hand in this thing.
I believe so. I mean, and then how things went in Philadelphia, it didn't go very well for him. He was pretty much the military governor, if you will, and things were, there's a lot of intrigue at that time, and there was a Netflix series called Turn,
Yep.
which is really good.
Excellent.
And they have a series of episodes on this. So I would invite our listeners to watch that. It gives a lot of background on that. But yeah, the sad thing is, his loyalty had a price, and you shouldn't put a price tag on loyalty. And really, it was he became a mercenary. So after he actually defected to the British side, and then sadly he led a lot of raids in Virginia and I believe in Connecticut, disastrous raids, took a lot of patriot lives. And then he spent the rest of his days, I believe, in London, just kind of, a nobody. And so he went from hero to zero. And so it's just sad.
Yeah, it's amazing. Like he made a calculated decision. Okay, he thought about this. I mean, this is wake up. I'm sure he just didn't
Emotional decision too.
He did, and emotion. I'm glad you said that.
Yeah.
Okay, an emotional decision, not something that was well thought out very well. Okay,
his pride was wounded.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so he made a decision, and the thing that he seeked, he lost.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, what he desired so much, his reach
and the decisions he made in pursuit of that eluded him because of it.
Yeah, and as you just said, he made those decisions based on that, based on his slighted pride. Mm-hmm. I mean, so many times, that's the beauty of really what I wanted to draw out of this chapter is, your loyalty is even when it's not appreciated. You serve faithfully even when it's not appreciated. How many times have you served, Mike, when you didn't feel your service was appreciated, when you didn't feel you didn't get enough accolades and attaboys? I mean,
plenty of times.
Yeah,
you just get used to it.
You just do it, and the idea that undermines this virtue is, duty is the privilege of service. I don't know if that makes sense, but just serving itself is a privilege. It's an honor of being able to wear the uniform, to take the oath, to stand in the gap, to stand on the wall, to do all those things when nobody else is watching. Because, rough men stand on the wall, how's the quote go? I'm messing it up. Stand ready to do violence on our behalf. That type of thing.
I love this quote that from a letter from George Washington to Benedict Arnold, dated September 14th, 1775. And Washington tells Benedict, every post is honorable in which a man can serve his country. Yeah. But he didn't. That wasn't enough for him.
No, it wasn't enough. Yeah, how well we could take that to heart and avoid, tragedies like that. And not much less avoiding making emotional decisions. So many tragedies I've had, personal little, mishaps, have happened because I made an emotional decision and made one of those instead of sleeping on it, and getting some, phoning a friend and going, hey, I'm super pissed about this. And they go, hey man, let's talk you down from this action.
I think that is some of the best advice anyone can have, is just like taking that day if you can, taking that 24 hours to think about something.
Yeah.
You'd avoid a lot of emotional decisions, which usually just don't come out very well.
Yeah, absolutely. Another aspect that's interesting that I wanted to squeeze out of history was, the samurai. And the samurai, their fealty was really loyalty, their pledge of fealty, their pledge to their feudal lord to protect their boss. So just slide that template over to in a smaller form. Your platoon sergeant, your platoon leader, even your boss. Maybe you're listening to this and you're not a warrior yourself. Well, I mean, you don't have to have kinetics involved to be a loyal troop in that sense. And that's what I loved about Bushido, is that was a essential virtue of the Bushido code, is loyalty. And so the samurai, which I believe also means servant, is they lived in that way. They saw themselves as a servant of society, the servant to that lord. And there's a beauty in that, living your life that way, thinking that way, and that gives value to your service. So my whole point is, and what I wanted to bring out of this chapter is, it's not about you. It's not about you, and that thought could have prevented Benedict Arnold from his disastrous decision.
Yeah, I think people that serve really cherish loyalty, because I think it's like the strongest bond that you have.
Yeah.
When you're out there in the suck, you have to depend on those folks to your left and your right. And I think most things done in those instances really don't have anything to do with country or anything else. Not that they don't exist, and that those feelings of that type of loyalty to country and unit and things like that they do exist. But I've always thought the strongest is that warrior right there on your left and your right. And I think I've certainly witnessed people doing remarkable things, and it certainly wasn't for the flag. I mean, they were doing it because of the love of their fellow warrior.
Yeah, no doubt. So, I mean, at this point, I just got to remind our listeners of that. Those words in the Declaration of Independence. We pledge our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. In light of that, loyalty is a sacred bond. It's a sacred bond that, you and I are in the foxhole together. And in that sense, your life is more important than mine. Just like the Spartan, his shield was actually for the guy to his left. It wasn't for himself. And so it's the beauty of loyalty, is it's for others. You're living for something bigger than yourself. Your service is for, your of course it's your family, but immediately it's to the person to your left and your right. That guy right there, his life. And so that's why we applaud and we extol that virtue. It's powerful. And so some of the most powerful expressions, and when you read the Medal of Honor citations, it's just inundated with the spirit of the sacred bond. And that's why, men ran into, withering fire, to do these, uncommon valorous deeds.
Well, you bring up another favorite of mine.
Yeah.
Which is Roy Benavides. I had the distinct honor to, meet him personally on a couple of different occasions. He spoke at a graduation ceremony of mine as well. But he's since passed away. But boy, what a character! What a force of virtue.
Oh, yeah.
Really.
And a great story too. I mean, from where he started.
I wasn't familiar with his the citation. I hadn't read the citation. I hadn't read the whole story. I mean, basically, it was like, yeah, we've got a Medal of Honor winner coming to speak today, and so I'm like, okay, obviously he's an awesome individual. I'm not sure exactly what he did, but when you read the citation, I mean, I'm glad you used him as an example for loyalty, because I mean, the guy is just
First thing that came to my mind.
Is this dude like superhuman or what?
Yeah, and that's what really gave him the impetus to do that. So, the guys who don't know, you haven't read the citation. Roy was in the FOB, listened to the troops in contact, and he knew that the team was going in. They went in, they hit troops in contact, and it's going sideways. And so he could have just sat there, right? And you have this idea, and that what he did was completely unauthorized when he grabs his rifle and his kit and he's out the door. But he's like, I don't care, I'm going. And he knew he could do it. He had the opportunity to do it. He did it, and so awesome. And then not only that, but he gets on the X, and then just how he gets bludgeoned and shot and blown up. And it just stays in the fight.
You think the citation's over, and it's like, no, there's more.
Yeah, just getting started. But yeah, he pulling people out of wrecked helicopters, and then after he's already been, I've been shot once, and I thought, hey, if I got shot, I would be like, well, shake it off and keep going. No, I was done. I was done for a while. Well, this guy, he's just like, well, I got some more life in me, and to the point where he's crawling around and making things happen.
Yeah.
So
amazing.
But what I love about the story of Roy Benavides is why he did it. Why he did it. He was not even in harm's way. He went into harm's way like a one-man QRF to extract his buddies. And so it was the love of his brothers that sent him in. Greater love have no man than this, the man who lays down his life for his friend, John 15:13.
And he was ready to do that.
Yeah, he was all about it. And so that's why this guy was always been a hero of mine. And then, of course, the story goes on after that. They said he was never going to walk again. And, the guy's like, well, that's not going to slow me down. And then, he teaches himself basically to walk again. And so he definitely was a guy that lived for something bigger than himself. And we need guys. We need more guys like that, just to have that.
You to clone those guys.
Yeah, and then on a minute scale, we're doing that. We're operating in that spirit that animated him when we think, hey, our brother's life is more important than our own. And I'm not saying be callous with your own life. I'm just saying. It's a special feeling you have when you're going out on a mission and you're with your brothers and you feel like, this is awesome. This is a family. This is a brotherhood.
Yeah, I think he was just moving to where he belonged.
Yeah.
I think he was like, we hear this expression, just as comfortable in combat as I am in my own bed. And I think that's exactly where he was at. I think as long as he was with his family, which was his fellow comrades, his fellow warriors, I mean, that's exactly where he belonged. He was doing exactly what God, created him to be doing.
Absolutely. And his, the essence of his life was really, just kind of encapsulated within those moments. He did some other great things, but I mean, right there, it just speaks volumes. But, and then, I didn't want to do a disservice. This was also tough in the book because there were so many other examples, so many other Medal of Honor recipients you could use. I was like, well, look, I don't want the book to go on forever, but, you want to make the point and move on. I was like, this is the guy.
Well, what makes somebody loyal?
I think, that's a really good question because
I want to be a loyal person.
Yeah.
What's going to make me loyal?
I think what's going to make you loyal, first off, as speaking as an American soldier, is that it's just the principle of duty is the privilege of service. That knowing that especially when you don't feel your service is appreciated, you fall back to that. You're loyal, knowing, hey, it is an honor and a privilege to put on the uniform, to represent your country, to not only that, but then, to kit up, to go out into the fight. So I think that can, one way that you can, and that's the $1 million question is, how do you be more loyal? How do you know? How do you be loyal? Is you're faithful to the Constitution. You're faithful to.
Is it a expression of love?
Yeah, I believe it is. It is expression of love. I would say brotherly love.
I mean, if you're a bit narcissistic,
yeah,
like maybe Benedict,
yeah, you're in a deficit.
You're going to have some problems.
Yeah, you're going to have some problems.
I mean, I'm just picturing people like Roy Benavides. I mean, these guys are just people that are just into service. These people just generally love other people.
Yeah,
they give their time of other people.
Yeah,
it's always about the other person.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just what I picture. I don't think if you lack that quality, I just don't see you being. You're probably not a very loyal person. I mean, you can pretend, but I don't think it's genuine. I don't think it's real. I think when the call comes in, I mean, you're just not going to be that guy that grabs the weapon and the kit and jumps on the Huey.
That's true. And I think you can develop loyalty, but I think you need to have something to start with, and the thing to start with is, yeah, you're not narcissistic. That obviously is going to be a problem, very problematic. And, we've worked with guys like that. And it's not a surprise. Now, they may be good in combat too.
No, but I think
but
we
it's just,
see.
There's different things happening.
And the reason why I throw that out there, Paul, is because I think we see more of that in today's society.
No doubt.
Of the selfie and the me.
Yeah, I've been lamenting about this for quite some time, probably like a broken record, but I usually say these two things, and no one's told me to shut up yet, so I think it resonates, is I've kind of singled out two things that really bother me about, however you want to say it, the last 20 years, the current generation, or whatever, and that is, two of them is they're too individualistic, they're too sensitive. That's just my take. So too individualistic bugs me because, look, it's not about you.
Right.
Your life is you're supposed to live for something bigger than yourself. That doesn't mean don't take care of yourself, but you are. That's the idea of the beauty, the most honored soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, whatever that we have. They thought of themselves as servants. They saw themselves as servants, and that's. The best example we have in the book is George Washington, the father of our country. He looked back on his entire, military career, political career, whatever. He was president for 8 years, and he said, hey, look, I just saw myself as a servant, nothing special. And so when I look at, hey, they're too individualistic, I don't think they're picking up on that. And the fault lies with many different, there's a big, menage of problems that go into that. I mean, we'd have to figure that out. But one of them really is, the upbringing, cultural tendencies that are pointing to individualism.
What we value in culture. Right?
Yeah, what you value. And we say this, what you value will affect how you behave. So you're going to live out what you believe. So if you value America, you value the other person's life, it's going to reflect in your actions. And if you just remember this, I was just talking about this the other day, just in your mind's eye, an iceberg. You see the very tip of the iceberg. Well, obviously below that is this giant ice cube floating around. And at the very bottom of that ice cube, the iceberg is really your worldview, your beliefs, and all those things. The very top, though, you just see the actions. So, loyalty, if it's the same way, if you follow the analogy, the very top, you're going to see these actions of these loyal actions. The very bottom is, hey, this person sees everybody else is more important. I'm living for something bigger than myself. And of course, this has a biblical warrant to it, huge biblical warrant, and it should. So, I mean, if what I'm saying resonates with Christians, it's supposed to, because Now I'm not saying that if you're not a Christian, you can't be a loyal soldier, but we can't help but have our words and our concepts being directly affected. Of course, our whole way of life in the West, the foundation is the Bible. And I make the argument in this book, the foundation of our entire Western culture is the Bible, the Constitution, and the Declaration of Independence. That's really the foundational level of everything that we are. How can you be a guy that's loyal? How can you cultivate a loyal spirit in yourself? It starts with duty. Duty being the privilege of service. Just duty to the country. And then, of course, duty to your family, duty to your wife, your husband, your spouse. And that falls back to that definition, faithfulness. I mean, just think about that. That's where the word really comes from. Loyalty really is faithfulness. And most people don't make that connection.
Yeah, I think people, it's you kind of bring a couple things to mind here. I'm thinking about Western culture, a Judeo-Christian foundation of that Western culture, and we've been accused of being rather martial. Let's face it. We got a pretty impressive military, a pretty impressive armed forces. I can't remember where you talked about this, but in our history, I don't know, our almost 250 years of being a country, I mean, we've just kind of gone from event to event to event, and which is pretty impressive. And for the most part, we are successful at anything we put our minds to. Let's just be honest, okay? When our heart's in it, okay, and we're in it to win it, that's going to happen. George Patton talked about that. Americans love winners, right? When we're just out there trying to make a buck on the capitalist end of it, I mean, it doesn't go so well. And we've seen a couple of examples of that. But the loyalty of that, and the reason why I think we create such fine warriors, I think, has a lot to do with that Judeo-Christian foundation, and our ideas of loyalty and the other virtues. And so I think it's very much a part of why we're successful, why we are the most impressive empire to ever grace the face of the earth, right? With the most lethal fighting machine ever devised, even to this day. Even with all our problems, I think you and I are just kind of looking around and going, well, you need a certain percentage of warriors, in order to maintain this thing. And I think we're starting to get into the yellow zone, and we're just trying to ramp it up a little bit, try to help out and make sure that we got people that can still carry on the baton.
Yeah. And something that one of the most amazing things, or probably the best compliment I ever got from one of my leaders, was in the first year when the GWAT kicked off. So September 11th, I was over in Germany. I was over in 110, and we were kind of bummed out because for that whole year we didn't go to Afghanistan. We didn't do any of that stuff. We just sat around and we were guarding the caserne we were at. For those that can associate with that, you're kind of like really bummed out. Like, here we are. And, we did certain missions and we're like, man, this isn't really that sexy. Right. And I really would like to be, tip of the spear, making some stuff happen, killing bad guys. But, so after like the 10th time we had to go out and do this kind of, I would say, lame mission, my team leader, our captain at the time, it's like 3 of us there, and we were done. We're taking our kit off and going back. And he said something I'll never forget. He said, "Thank you for your loyal and patriotic service to our country." And that just resonated with me because I thought, I really needed to hear that.
You're just being content.
Yeah, it's like, hey, look, we didn't put, rounds downrange. We didn't drop ordnance. We didn't do this, that, and the other. It wasn't that sexy, but it was loyal, it was patriotic, and it was service. And, even when it's not appreciated, it just reminded me, it really reinforced what loyalty is all about. It's like, hey, there's no fanfare. There's not an award that goes along with it, but we did it. We did it, and it needed to be done, and it kept people safe. And so just remind you about all the other times, think about, all the bad guys, all the terrorists that could have done something, but they didn't. All the 9/11s that could have happened, but they didn't, and we don't even know about them.
Right.
But there are people that are never going to be named, and they did something, and they stopped it, and they know that was loyal and patriotic service to the country.
Yeah,
and that's awesome.
Yeah, for every I always joked, it's they always talk about the tip of the spear, right? Everybody's the tip of the spear,
Yeah. Tip of something.
Someone's got to be the shaft, and someone's got to be the back of the spear, right? There's all kinds. The spear's got a lot of parts to it.
That's true.
And you can throw that tip all you want, but it's you got to have the rest of it for it to be effective. And
no doubt.
So yeah, all of it matters, and that's important that you realize that. The tip of the spear's fine. That's great. It's sexy. It sounds cool when someone tells you you're the tip of the spear, but you might not really be the tip of the spear. You might be another very important part of that. And so and so it was your turn to be the shaft, Paul.
That's okay.
But someone had to do that.
Yeah.
And I think it's good that someone comes and says thank you for that.
Yeah.
And that's important, right?
Absolutely. I had I would be remiss if I didn't mention my first team sergeant, David Simano. Master Sergeant David Simano. Hey, if you're listening to this, hey, thank you for all the times you hemmed me up because I needed it. And those counselings that there was initial ones, I'm a brand new E5 coming to first group, had my head up my fourth point, and you got me right. Something that was awesome about him, a lot of awesome stories, but I'll just give you one. He retired in 1997. He did 20 years, 1977, 1997, and he was in first group basically the whole time. And, he said, hey, you know what? I've basically missed everything, and I've missed J. He said, I've only done J sets,
right.
And, we did some great J sets, but he said, I've missed basically every piece of combat that you could possibly miss. Right. And he did. Yeah. And he said, I have no regrets. And he's like, hey, I got to serve. What an honor to serve. I never forget that.
Yeah.
I thought, he's right. Yeah. Like, hey, look, regardless of what you get to do, some guys come in and they get all this other stuff, but hey, it's like, look, just imagine, a base that's getting attacked. Only one side of the base gets attacked. But those soldiers on the other side where they're not getting attacked, they're still vigilant. They're still pulling security. And
they have kept that side from getting attacked.
Exactly. And so I never forget that. So, yeah, David Simano, hey, thank you for your loyal and patriotic service to our country. That's right. And then, some other things is I wanted to bring out on this too is loyalty is about other things too, not just kinetics and just being there, but it's keeping things intact, like keeping promises, keeping secrets. So just like another nuance of this, you're loyal by not taking, compromised things home, by not taking, confidential things home and putting them in your garage. Maybe, I don't know, maybe that was a below the belt.
Well, no, I think you bring up a point. There's more. I think as warriors too. I'm just going to have to go ahead and say it, but
yeah,
we're always evaluating each other.
Yeah,
and
we should.
That's
part of the art. Just if I can sneak in there for a second. Part of the argumentation I have in this book is, look, nobody else outside of the warrior class is going to make the warrior class not sucky. It's going to be the warrior class. That's who holds the standards. Right. The warrior codes and the virtues were developed by warriors, not by the society that the warriors protect.
There wasn't a bureaucracy that had a committee and they voted?
No. Warriors said, hey, these virtues are important, and they police each other up. So when somebody is subpar, they go, hey, man, We need to talk. Hopefully you can remember what I just interrupted you on.
No, and you're absolutely and that's true. And so where I was going is on loyalty. It's not just okay, is Paul loyal to me? On the range, out there deployed in times of combat. No, I mean we're looking at the whole man.
Yeah.
Right. What type of relationships is my guy to my left and right involved in? How do they treat their wives? How do they treat their children? How do they treat elderly people in that are needy? You're always sizing these people up. So it's not that you're just a cool warrior and you got the kit and you went to the school. We're constantly looking at the overall loyalty. How you apply that in life generally, because that's just going to tell you everything you need to know about a person and how they're going to do in the foxhole.
Yeah, no doubt. And that's one thing about loyalty that I found is it's all encompassing. So it covers for example, courage can be demonstrated in a minute or two, and then things kind of die down. And honor could also be all encompassing, but loyalty really is one of those qualities that you exhibit all the time, even when there's no kinetics. So just with example with David Samano, and other times where you're doing something that's not super sexy, but loyalty is needed. And in fact, often loyalty, as we used Benedict Arnold, is important when there's not something kinetic going on. It's like, okay, now there's a big lull. Now you have time to think, now time to brood over something that you're really upset about and you were slighted about and you don't feel appreciated about. And that's where that loyalty is the most important. And to say, okay, yeah, that's not really, I'm not going to make this about me. I'm not going to be emotional. And I'm just going to stay the course. I'm going to be consistent in my service and my commitment to what I'm doing. So I think when it comes to this virtue, it's kind of like you can detect it in a man kind of when there's nothing else going on, in a sense, if that makes any sense.
I think you can. I think it's something that even in peacetime, nothing at all going on.
Yeah.
You can judge this one.
Absolutely. And then there's something that
here's one for you. So you can I'll tell you what I'm gonna do tonight. I'm just gonna go ahead and let's let them know. So probably like at 2:00 in the morning, I'm just gonna call Paul and tell him I have a flat tire and I'm in the middle of nowhere. So now if he comes and helps you out, he's loyal. If he has an excuse why he can't come help you out, then there you go, right? My point is you can always judge it no matter what, because there's always going to be things that come up and things that are happening around you that you can really kind of tell where someone's loyalty is at.
Absolutely. I wanted to say this too: is there's limits to loyalty.
Uh-oh.
There are
that
limits.
Means you're not coming at 2:00 in the morning. Then.
Yeah. Now that one I'm probably going to go ahead and execute because that's important. Friend in need, right?
There you go.
But the idea is sometimes we need to recognize when something is calling for our allegiance to and our commitment to ideals, of our country and the mission, or is this something else? Is somebody calling for us to?
Oh, you see this in school, right?
Yeah.
Snitches leave the stitches.
Yeah. So sometimes people misuse this virtue, and they're like, "Hey, if you're really loyal, then you would do X, Y, Z."
That's right.
Which is actually calling for you to have a lack of integrity, but to be loyal to the person or the group.
Yeah.
And so a lot of guys fall into this trap, and they do something that's unethical because they worked hard to get to this unit, and now they don't want to lose that, and so they'll do this other unseemly thing to do it to like, okay, I am loyal.
Yeah, you shouldn't have blind loyalty.
Yeah, blind loyalty. That's a good way to put it. Because and you can just compound the examples that deal with. One of the first things that come up is Melgar. Melgar was a 3rd Special Forces Group. He was serving downrange in Africa, and there was an issue with money. And, it's like, hey, if you're loyal to this group, then you will look the other way, and just take the money or just allow us to keep going on and do what we're doing. And obviously, if you know the backstory, things went sideways because he said, hey, I'm not going to do that. And so the people that were serving there with him, they saw, hey, he's probably going to rat us out. And then they killed him. So they murdered him. And so it's a sad tale. But, the guy died for his belief. He died, being loyal to the cause of, the ideals that made our country free, and not necessarily to this group who was off the rails, crazy, going on another little sheet of music that they were operating on. It was not even a mission. And, that's happened to me. That's caused me to lose friends, what I thought were friends, caused me to lose, money, caused me to lose positions, to look at the limits. There are limits to loyalty. I had to do this one too. You have this great example in Acts. I believe it's Acts chapter 4, where the Sanhedrin, they call the apostles together and they say, hey, you're not going to, give the gospel anymore. You're not going to preach or teach in the name of Jesus anymore. And they say, whether it's right in the sight of God for us to listen to you or not, you decide, but we're going to go ahead and do it. And so they just suffered the consequences for doing the right thing. And they were loyal. And so their loyalty was, lied with the higher authority. And so they're like, hey, I know that I need to be loyal to my team, but when this team is doing something wrong, well, my loyalties lie to the upper echelon, whatever it is.
Yeah, I think this might be the one that's probably challenged the most.
Yes.
Maybe of all the virtues.
I absolutely agree. Personally, this has challenged me because I've had on, smaller levels have been tempted to do some Benedict Arnold stuff, not selling out America and not doing this or the other, but feeling like kind of slighted. It's like, well, I'm just going to go to another team or go to another unit or something like that. And you just kind of get pissed. And that happens to a lot of us. And I have made the emotional decisions, and I've failed to phone a friend. And then I was like, man, I shouldn't have done that, but I did. And, but yeah, this one is challenging. It's challenging because look, we all want to fit in. We all want the brotherhood. We all want to be accepted as part of the pack, the wolf pack. Right. We don't want to be this lone wolf doing our own thing. And so this is where you're going to sense the need to really fit in. And this is going to be a challenge it's very challenging.
Yeah, I think it should be hand in hand with integrity. That needs to be what kind of guides the loyalty. So these things are all very much interrelated.
Yeah.
That's why there's no such thing as one warrior virtue.
That's true. They are interrelated. And so that was my idea is it's like a fist. If you're making a fist and you have 5 warrior virtues, I mean, what is a fist without a thumb, right? And what is you can't really pick up a battle axe without a thumb. So that thumb is honor, if you will. Well, I would say, we've said integrity. Maybe that's the index finger, and that middle finger is pretty strong. And so, if you will, it takes all these fingers to hold this. And so all of these have to go together. And the other thing is when it comes to loyalty, when I look back at my career, that was probably where I was challenged the most.
I think it's the one that's going to be tested the most, regardless if you're in uniform or not.
Yeah.
I think loyalty is just one of those things that you're constantly need to be on guard.
Yeah,
with and thinking about.
Yeah, I can't think of. There's so many times where I went to a school I didn't really want to go to because my teams aren't wanting me to go to that school, and later on I was like, okay, that makes sense. I'm glad I did it. Or I went on a deployment and I wasn't really jazzed about that deployment. But it's like, hey, I'm supporting the team. I'm supporting the mission. I'm supporting, the United States Army.
You're doing what you're
all that
supposed to
stuff. Yeah. So whether you like it or not, you're doing it. And that's really what loyalty is also. And it's also good to have, and, not be that guy that's just, booby lipped, that, you want to be the guy that's got his heart in the game, but loyalty is going on even when you're not feeling it. You're still in it to win it.
Yeah,
and you're not always super confident about why you're doing it, but you're just doing it. It's like that really long fire guard shift. Or you're in the patrol base and you're outside the fart sack and it's cold.
Yeah, feeling sorry for yourself.
Yeah, and it's a really long guard shift with your buddy, and you're like, golly. But you're doing it because you're thinking of, hey, if I let my guard down, that's when the French and Indians attack, and we're all toast.
That's right. Stand to. That's right.
I don't know. I think I had a lot of fun with this this virtue. And then the other thing is, so we mentioned this, each one of these, we wanted to mention this, principles, two principles, a principle to know and a principle to do. And so we kind of mentioned this already, but the principle to know here is duty is the privilege of service. And I think that makes sense. It's just service is itself a privilege. And so, and I have this note, is understanding this is helpful when your loyal service is not appreciated. So just remembering that, hey, someone will maybe not say it, but they will know it later on. And you may never get vindication, but they'll say, hey, thank you for your loyal and patriotic service. It made all the difference. It could have been another 9/11, but you were on guard and you were, standing sentinel and nothing happened on your watch, right? And then the principle to do is serve faithfully even when it's not appreciated. And I remember this from, I think it was an episode of Breaking Bad. I'm not sure. But the guy is, one guy is letting another guy have it about, hey, you're a dad, you're a dad, you're a father. And, and the guy was like, well, they didn't really care about, what I was doing. And the point was, and I got this, by the way, from Steve Pumphrey. So Steve Pumphrey, if you're out there, love you, brother. Thank you for this example. And I just want to give you a shout out. But, serve faithfully even when it's not appreciated. And so it's, living for something bigger than yourself. And this is an effective check to, vainglory, to pride. So this little line of thought could have helped, General Benedict Arnold from, doing what he did. And, going down in history as a traitor that he was. And it's sad. So we can avoid doing that. And, I think these, if we're introspective about this could help us. So, earlier you asked, how can we be a little bit more loyal? How can we cultivate that? Let me just ask you this. What order do you put the following in? Let me just ask you this. God, family, country. What order do those things come in? And let me just ask you, or maybe just like this, you, yourself.
Well, it's supposed to be God.
Yeah.
And I know that. And I think I desire that. But in reality, if I'm real with myself, I think family. I think I spend more time concerned about that, those relationships and how I'm doing in that department than I do about.
Because it's practical. It's
just right there. It's right there. It's the squeaky wheel that gets the grease.
Well, let me ask you that.
Yeah.
Your your commitment to your family and to taking care of your family as a patrol leader, if you will, everything it does or fails to do is an expression of your loyalty to God.
Well, certainly, I agree with that. I'm supposed to be doing that.
Yeah.
Now I'm supposed to be doing a lot of things too, according to Scripture. But I think this should go hand in hand. I think you make a good point.
Yeah. And then I remember this was asked back about 20 years ago. You used to ask somebody on a board, Now they're like, okay, put these in order, God, family, country. And I remember some people would get, up in arms if the order, wasn't the right one they wanted. Yeah. But anyway, the idea is just think this through. Think that through. And then, if we put yourself, your family, country, I hope you wouldn't put yourself first. That's the idea.
You certainly wouldn't be loyal.
Yeah.
I think you would struggle with loyalty. I mean, I was just looking at one of the definitions too. I mean, it talks about affection, So I think there's certainly an aspect of that kindred, affection, all those things that you're looking for is very much a part of that.
Yeah, and then if I could kind of go off script a little bit, actually all this is off script, but in this day and age, it's incumbent upon Christians, if you're listening to this and you're a Christian, to be loyal to the Word of God, to be loyal to, America, what our country is founded upon, which is the Word of God. And, our Declaration of Independence, our Constitution, we're sworn to defend that against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And so, this book is really about getting back to first principles. And those are the first principles.
Yeah, you hear that sometimes, American values, And so what are American values? Because that's where I think,
Yeah, great question. How is that articulated today? I'm not really sure.
I'm not sure.
It's all over the place.
I'm not sure if you went out in the crowd and asked, okay, what are American values?
Yeah.
I think some of them, you'd be like, what?
I think you could hear life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, but I don't know if you're going to hear our lives, our fortunes, our sacred honor.
Yeah, I mean, or
I don't know what you're going to hear.
Like Vice President, I mean, I hate to pick on her, but Vice President, Harris, she even left out the life part. So,
yeah,
I guess it's just the latter two
Yeah.
That she would consider an American value now. But, I mean, if the country is founded on biblical principles, then that's probably the foundation for our values.
It is. And, what you value exerts influence on your behavior, and your behavior becomes your character. And so, hopefully those of you who listen to this, you can cultivate that character of loyalty. People see a difference in that. So I want to encourage you, wherever you're at, maybe you're listening to this and you're downrange. I thank you for your service. I thank you for your loyal and patriotic service to our country. I appreciate you being out there, and I sleep better in my bed knowing that you're out there doing what you're doing. So I appreciate that, and I hope that this book will help you when it comes out. And we're kind of teasing out some of the goodness here, but there's a lot more where that came from. But
Yeah, you have to buy the book to get all of it.
Yeah, you're going to have to buy the book. Yep.
All right, well, listen, we've done honor, we've done integrity, we've done loyalty, so we've got a couple more to go after this. But again, another. I think this is fun. I'm really glad we're spending the time to go over this, because I certainly wish that when I joined the military back in the mid 1980s, that we had spent some more time on this.
This was the book I wanted when I joined the Army in
Me
89.
too.
Yeah.
Me too. And we've both been out a while, but again, it's something that we've constantly thought about this entire time, and it's certainly something that's needed. So I'm glad we're spending the time doing it, Paul.
Right on.
All right, gentlemen, thank you again for another fine episode, and we'll see you next week. We hope you enjoyed today's episode of the Pinelander Podcast. If you enjoy our unique content, please consider supporting our sponsors. SOF News, providing special operations news from around the world. It's where Paul and I go to keep abreast of what's going on within the SOF community. Check them out at sof.news. Blacksmith Publishing, been serving the warrior class since 2013. They have great titles written for warriors, by warriors. If you're looking for excellent reference material or just want to unwind with a great novel, be sure to check out the bookstore located at blacksmithpublishing.com. And if you're looking for some cool Pinelander apparel, head on over to the general store located at pinelandergeneralstore.com. That's all one word, pinelandergeneralstore.com. Have a great selection of shirts, hats, jackets, sweaters, stickers, patches, artwork, and a whole lot more. Check out the store at pinelandergeneralstore.com. If you're interested in helping develop our country's next generation of warriors, please consider donating to the American Agoge Project. The mission of the project is to foster an environment producing able-bodied citizen warrior men of fine character. And we'll be officially launching the project in 2023 in celebration of Blacksmith Publishing's 10th anniversary. Until our next meeting, stay mentally and tactically smart, physically and spiritually strong, and socially astute. To each other we pledge our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. May God continue to bless Pineland.